Welcome back, fellow horror geeks, to 100 Days of Horror, presented by cityofgeek.com. And I am Bob, doing my video reviews, but I'm not the only one doing this. Good chunk of us are watching 100 horror films we haven't seen in days leading up to Halloween and posting our watches on our Facebook group, which you can find by going to the City of Geek link down below there and then following the link previously in there. If you want to tell us about what you're watching, we can put it up there. It's not too late to join us. For only 70 days in, or 68 for this case to review. Totally time to do it, or just do 31 days of Halloween and we'll let you update anyway, because we want more people to watch more horror films they haven't seen. As much as I love to watch all the movies I love again and again and again, such as the original film that I'm talking about today. I'm talking about the television version of this. But today we're talking about What We Do in the Shadows Season 1, which is now streaming completely on Hulu, which is how I watched it. Really glad to say that Season 1 of What We Do in the Shadows is as good, if not better, than the movie. I fucking love the show so much. It hit every note in the right way and really does a great job of transferring what worked over there into a television format, because really is, for those who aren't aware, What We Do in the Shadows, both the television show and the movies, follow a group of vampires living in a house in modern times with the camera crew following them around and kind of seeing their daily afterlives as they kind of go through the mundanity of that, where they're all kind of stuck in the previous eras that they came from, so they're kind of out of touch with the modern society, and they have links with various people that do this. So of the way that they act, both as vampires and as people older than everyone else, and how they interact with the modern world, and how often boring and weird that world is, and how they come together to have these kind of pathetic vampires who don't know how to interact with anyone else, and how they react to everything, how they react to each other, and their rich histories, and how they bicker and fight like actual roommates and housemates do. And the American version isn't a remake, but more in the same world. We don't have the exact same characters like the people from the movie. Jermaine Clement, the writer-director, Taika Waititi, who made Thor Ragnarok. The couple episodes of this show also created Eagle vs. Shark and worked a lot on Flight of the Conchords, so he has a great track record in it, and the track record continues there. And if you haven't seen Hunt for the Wilder People, you need to see that right now, because if you like What We Do in the Shadows and Thor Ragnarok and everything else that he's done, you need to go find this movie. It's one of my favorite movies a couple years ago. But that's a quick side thing, but go find Hunt for the Wilder People, because I saw that movie multiple times in theaters. It's something I don't do as much now these days, but I had to see it as many times as I could. But what really works for this adaptation is it's not a direct copy of the original. We have our new vampires, Mandor, Laszlo, and Nadia, and energy vampire Colin Robinson. They're not direct copies from the people from this world, from the characters that the original people played. They're new, but they're not. They're new and they're fresh, and they have different interaction, different histories, and different backstories, and different personalities than the people we have in the original. And so it takes that spirit and puts it in a different place, and that really works, of seeing American life compared to New Zealand life. It's really kind of about the same in the case both of these, but also by expanding out from an 85-minute movie to a 10-episode television show. Each of the episodes is about 25 minutes long. It really allows to get more into the lives of these characters, and really allows us to get a lot into the mundanities of life. The second episode has a lot to do with the city council and how the city council works and the laws that govern, and it's absolutely hysterical on how these people interact with that, and especially how Colin Robinson does it. Colin Robinson is a wonderful character that was kind of iffy about to start with. He's played by Mark Proch, who you might remember from Nate from The Office. He's not a vampire in the same sense that the rest of the group is. He's an energy vampire, and the people that just drains you when you talk to them is like, God, I need to get away. So that was, I thought, might be a one joke premise that I was kind of worried that wouldn't continue on, but the way that his character keeps interacting with them is solid, and they really build a lot. So there's great comedic chops from everyone to help really build this, both from the writing and from the directing, and especially from the performances. So so it wouldn't really work if they weren't able to sell that deadpan in such a wonderful way. The vampires play Matt Berry, Natasha Dimitriou, and Kavan Novak. Matt Berry you might know from a lot of BBC work, Snuffbox, IT Crowd. Natasha and Kavan are less known. Kavan was in Four Lions. It's a great movie, you should check that out. And she's done a lot of BBC work, from looking at their IMDb, did a lot of small guest roles, it seems to be, but this is a really breakout role because everyone is perfect. Story-wise, we do have a little more of a story than simply vampires living on their own. In this case, we have Doug Jones playing the Baron, who shows up. He's an ancient vampire that everyone's kind of afraid of, and he shows up and wonders why they haven't taken over the world yet. So they talk about why they haven't taken over the United States yet, but here they are in their house in Staten Island, and they maybe have one street. Yeah. And then they start to figure out how they can try and expand out, but of course nothing ever works in the right way. They get sidetracked by everything that's going on. They get their own egos get in their way in the case of Laszlo, and they get themselves into shit and they have to get themselves back out of it without trying to really move forward. But you get little flashes of the rest of the vampires live in area. You get a vampire that Nick Kroll plays, who has a club in Manhattan that they've known for decades and hundreds of years. So you get different slices of afterlife for these guys. And I'm trying not to ruin any particular jokes because I don't want to. I kind of came in not knowing where anything was going to go of any of the wonderful guest appearances, the storylines. I didn't know any of them coming in. I just kind of knew the show was great and watched as everything unfolded. But that's like the first movie. There's so many lines that my wife and I have already started to say that as soon as the show is over, we're already repeating back, and we keep doing so. I'm going to mention Harvey Guillen, who plays Guillermo, familiar for Nador, who's Kevin Novak's character, kind of like the leader of the vampires. He's familiar. He's kind of really pulling everything together, and his gem looks of looking into the camera are wonderful. I said everyone is spot on. It's like fucking Doug Jones. But the repeating jokes as things go through are really well done. There isn't anything. It never feels like they ran out of material, even if we're seeing the same joke again, because of the way they build and the repeat. There's a great storyline, a Nadia and lost love of hers, and how it comes in and out of the story, and she turns Beanie Feldstein from Booksmart, one of the best movies of the year, into a vampire, and how she has to deal with it. So you're seeing a lot of different elements from this all coming together. But as translating it from film to TV was a great choice here, because we do have the chance to have more vignettes. That's just essentially what the first movie is, a lot of little shorter stories of these vampires' lives. Turning that into 10 episodes of 30 minutes long, about that really works. If we get to have expansion each of those episodes, instead of like maybe about 10 minutes that the first movie would have to do, we have a whole episode to go over something and let it play out and kind of come together with a little more budget, a little more ability to let it breathe and let the characters breathe, let the characters interact in that way. So I want to highly recommend that. You can show Hulu, you can watch it now. It's all available there. It came out weekly originally, but I waited for it to pop up on Hulu. So this actually probably is one of my favorite things of this year. I said it's one of my favorite movies of all time, so I'm glad that the show beats it in different ways. And don't look up anything beforehand, because there's a lot of wonderful surprises. I said these guests that pop in throughout the episodes, Squeed. My friend Gabby is who's going as Nadia for Halloween. She's like, that character's me, and totally is. When first episode, I messaged her. I'm like, yes. She's like, but when a particular thing happened, I sent her this like really long of post of almost the same words repeated again of how excited I was. What We Do in the Shadows is one of the best shows to come out this year, from one of the best movies of the last 10 years, ever, maybe. So highly recommend that. Full A+. Everyone's perfect. Everything is perfect about the show. I can't wait for season 2. I need season 2 right now, and I actually kind of want to go watch season 1 again, instead of abandoning the rest of 100 Days of Horror and watching 31 days of What We Do in the Shadows. But thank you for speaking geek with us about these vampire movies, and we'll see you next time.